Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about 10x developers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, do software engineers focus too much on becoming 10x programmers? No, I don't think so. The average software developer that I work with falls into one or two buckets. They're either focusing mostly on just feeling like, not having imposter syndrome, and the others are lazy bums who requires a senior software developer to basically act as a daycare teacher or kindergarten teacher, um, to to make sure that they do more than the bare minimum of what they have to. That's what I would say. But I've never seen there being an issue with people focusing too much on becoming a 10x programmer, because the reality is that the only people who become 10x programmers are gifted in ways that make them 10x programmers. And we sort of, as I've explained in other videos, we have to sort of define what a 10x programmer merely means. Now, a 10x programmer, if you ask me, in terms of someone who is just, faster at typing or faster at solving problems and so forth, that's debatable if such a person exists. The people I know that are 10x programmers are usually the people who find effective solutions to very serious problems that systematically slow down the development process. As an example, a 10x programmer would be an individual who can spot that you are synchronously, now this is a very trivial example, but imagine you are synchronously deploying all your testing and like your CI pipeline, and they figure out a simple way to make that run in parallel. Well, all of a sudden your total development time, or like time that you spend waiting, might drop in half, like in an extreme case, and all of a sudden that means that you can now calculate each individual programmer as 50% more productive. That surely, depending on how many programmers you are, is a person who's now approaching the 10x programmer. If nobody else thinks about that sort of stuff, well, that's the sort of person I'm talking about at the very least when I talk about the 10x programmer. And the same thing goes for experienced programmers who are very good at setting up architecture and know how to design a system. Because the inverse, so like the opposite of this, is the person who slows everything down. And I've worked with guys like that as well. People who are very clever, quote unquote, but they create a situation where everything slows down, it grinds down to a halt because they're incompetent in a different way. It's the sort of people who they burn through cash and time like it was nothing, and they do so. They try to be the 10x programmers, but they're not actually good at it. Because they are basically philosopher programmers who can't actually make something more efficient. But it's never the case that they are trying necessarily to be these ways. It's more subtle than that. The people who do this sort of stuff are usually more inclined towards following their own passion and their own ideas. It's more of a creative thing. And in a sense, you can imagine it as being someone who is a very enthusiastic designer or something like that, where if you give them full range to do whatever they want, some of them are just going to do the bare minimum, or like do the thing that is quickest, or is like something simple, and some of them are gonna take all the time in the world. They will reimagine the entire universe if you give them the time. And so I don't really like that is the thing that I think is half of it. Most software programmers or software developers are more focused on either, as I said, being scared that they're not good enough, imposter syndrome and things like that, or they are just care about themselves. Like they are more focused on doing what they think is interesting or whatever. And that's why I tell companies and managers and other people, so forth, that it's not about just having a software developer. It is about having the right software developers, because the reality is that this is a creative field. This is not like hiring, just an arbitrary person for an arbitrary job that can be done sort of like where you can sort of just switch people without much in terms of difference in productivity or impact on your overall system. This is much, much, much more inclined towards like a talent business such as sports or similar sorts of things, where you have star players and then you have really, really shitty ones. And if you're not careful with the way that you hire people, yep, it's going to end badly for your system. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, I don't think that programmers focus, they usually don't focus at all on being 10x programmers, because the people who are concerned with that they're not 10x programmers are usually the people who focus more, who have imposter syndrome, who are scared shitless over the fact that they're not as fast as everybody else, or they're not good. And I try to tell them the thing that matters is, are you, number one, able to do the job? And number two, are you meeting the expectations put on you at any given moment? And it's a perspective that is sort of sobering, I hope, because it basically means that it doesn't actually matter how good you are, as long as you're good enough to maintain, to keep your employment, or like as long as you keep on pushing it, you will get better. And the emotions that you feel when you have imposter syndrome is usually down to you. It's mostly you who are causing problems for yourself. And the other part is the people who focus too much on their own ambitions and goals and like dreams and etc. etc. Like they're not 10x programmers. They're not trying to become 10x programmers. Some of them think that they are 10x programmers, and as I said, it's easy to figure that out. Are you slowing down velocity or improving velocity? That is the only number that matters, at least in my opinion. And when you ask the quote-unquote self-proclaimed 10x programmers, you'll find very quickly that they're actually not most of them don't actually know how much of a difference the work that they do make. They're just conceptually enthusiastic about it. It's sort of like a bunch of mathematicians who create a formula that doesn't work in reality, and then they make excuses, and basically it boils down to, well, reality is wrong. Similar sorts of people you're dealing with here. But on average, no. Most people in IT don't care about being 10x programmers. They're usually in the range between being scared shitless over that they're very bad at what they do, up to they don't care about much more than just sort of doing the thing that they feel is enjoyable and getting paid doing so. Have a great day.